On September 13th, Bloomberg reported that according to a report by consulting firm Henley Partners Group, New York, Tokyo, and the San Francisco Bay Area are the places where most of the rich people live. A rich individual here is someone who has at least $1 million in portfolio assets. The report reads, Beijing and Shanghai, which hold the 9th and 10th places on the list of wealthiest cities, respectively, have also recorded losses as Henley Partners predict China will see the second largest wealth outflow after Russia this year. Henley Partners listed Hong Kong separately from China, with Hong Kong in 4th place with as many as 3,000 people. In 3rd place is India. The firm expects about 10,000 high-net-worth Chinese millionaires to relocate out of China in 2022, taking about $4.8 million per capita, for a total of $48 billion out of China. The wave of Chinese tycoons emigrating to the West occurred a while ago. It is safe to say that almost everyone in the top echelons of the Communist Party knows that the regime could collapse at any moment. So the more senior the officials, the closer to the top the wealthy are, the more these people are in a rush to move their assets in the national treasury or their assets overseas to save themselves a fallback. For them, one of the most common ways to move assets is to change their status and acquire foreign nationality. In 2017, the total number of Chinese billionaires who immigrated overseas was about 10,000. In 2018, the number was as high as 15,000. In 2019, the number of Chinese immigrants to Western countries such as the US, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom was 15,000, ranking first in the world. In addition, according to the 2020 Global Migration Report released by the United Nations, the number of immigrants in China has exceeded 11 million, of which rich immigrants account for a large proportion. For example, the chairman of Sunac China is worth 70.71 billion renminbi, and his nationality has long been the United States. The man who pioneered China's photovoltaic industry joined Australian citizenship back in 1993 when he was still studying in Australia. Another Chinese real estate giant, the head of Country Garden, was revealed to have invested and immigrated to Cyprus in 2020. The second way is to establish a family trust, mainly an offshore trust. The trusts are registered abroad. All shares under the tycoon, whether they are A shares, Hong Kong shares, or US shares, domestic properties and other assets are loaded into the offshore trust so that the ownership of the shares and properties no longer belongs to the tycoon, but the offshore trust. For example, in October 2007, Chinese property tycoon Pan Shi, the owner of Soho China, transferred all his shares to his wife, who holds Hong Kong citizenship and whose nationality is now American. According to another source, since 2011, the couple has invested a large number of overseas assets through a family trust. This includes, in early 2013, the wife and a Brazilian consortium purchased a 40% stake in the General Motors building for $1.4 billion, a transaction that became one of the largest real estate investments in the US by a single Chinese investor. At this point, legally, the rich have become poor. So even when one invests in businesses and loses tons of money, it won't have anything to do with the wealth in the trust. Even when a wealthy person breaks the law, there is no way for the court to take a single penny of fine or compensation from the trust. According to public records, 10 of China's top billionaires have already transferred $500 billion in assets into offshore trusts, including such well-known entrepreneurs as Jack Ma, the main founder of Alibaba Group, Liu Qiangdong, the founder of Jingdong Group, the chairman of Sunac China, and the founder of Xiaomi Technology. Senior CCP officials and China's top tycoons have successfully completed the task of transferring wealth overseas using the resources at their disposal. And many small and medium-sized tycoons who are immersed in the Chinese dream or the dream of getting rich are awakened by the increasingly disintegrating political and economic situation in China in recent years. The Chinese economy is in a slump and relations with the US are tense. In particular, the Great Shanghai lockdown in the spring of 2022 has made the ordinary middle class see that in the world's second-largest economy, you may starve to death because of the CCP's strict epidemic prevention policies. In Shanghai, business seems to have not survived so far, and some well-known Chinese brands have gone out of business. For example, Metters Bonway, once known as the #1 brand in China's clothing industry, is now closed in several cities. This wave of bankruptcy has been called Tears of the Times by the Chinese media. The hero of a generation, Metters Bonway, has closed down and withdrawn from the market. A hero of a generation, a legend of an era. What's happening? The fitness and health brand across the road has also closed down. They are all old stores, physical in Huasheng Plaza. Metters Bonway has ended its era, shutting down its flagship store in Shanghai. It's over. The wealth of yesterday is likely to be greatly reduced today. For example, Yang Huiyan, the head of Country Garden, was selected as the richest woman in China for 9 consecutive years in the past. At the beginning of 2022, her net worth was as high as $23.7 billion. The Bloomberg Billionaires Index, released in July this year, pointed out that her assets had shrunk by more than half in the past year. On July 28th alone, her net worth fell by nearly $2 billion in one breath to $11.3 billion. Now she is no longer the richest woman in China. Yang's experience reflects the situation in China's real estate industry. Unfinished buildings and supply cuts are now causing a contraction in the real estate industry, and the mortgage crisis continues to worsen. Such scenes are happening across China. Homeowners try to defend their rights when they encounter rotten tail buildings. But the only way the CCP can deal with the situation is to suppress them. In some places, when leaders come to inspect the buildings, the real estate developers hire some actors to pretend to be workers. And make some noise in the building. Time to leave. 30 minutes later, when leaders leave, so do the actors. The show is over. This is a neighborhood in Guangdong province where the red banners read, "Low price transfer." People are eager to sell properties they can't afford. Pan Shi and his wife, also real estate tycoons, are in a worse position than Yang Huiyan. Since around 2015, there have been cries in the Chinese media, "Don't let Pan Shi run away." Of course, this hasn't slowed him down at all. In addition to investing in many overseas assets through his family trust, Pan has accelerated the pace of liquidating his Chinese assets. Pan's children have also gotten him into trouble. During the Sino-Indian conflict in June 2020, the Communist Party's official media trumpeted the PLA's victory. Pan's oldest son, who was abroad, posted on Weibo that he had heard that at least 1 battalion of PLA soldiers had been wiped out by the Indian soldiers. It seems that there is no chance of a sky burial. He was then charged with insulting the heroes of the border garrison and was wanted by the Beijing public security authorities. But because he has never returned to China, he is considered a fugitive on the run. The top tycoons who have experienced great storms and waves should have sensitive nerves. The CCP's high-profile pursuit of Pan's overseas son is likely just a cover. The real purpose is to crack down on the couple and annex their family fortune because the couple has been stigmatized as American spies and traitors to the country by many cyber militias. In reality, the Pan couple represents the typical experience of many self-made entrepreneurs in China. Pan was born into a poor family in northwestern China. His wife worked in a garment factory in Hong Kong as a teenager. They founded Soho China in 1995 to create commercial and residential buildings targeting China's elite class, mainly in Shanghai and Beijing. On September 7, 2022, Pan and his wife stepped down as chairman and CEO of Soho China, respectively, raising questions once again about his running away. Luckily, the couple had already moved to the US at the beginning of the pandemic. Pan had considered selling Soho China to Blackstone Group to cash out. The 23.6 billion Hong Kong dollar deal between the company and Blackstone was terminated in August 2021 after the China Market Regulatory Bureau reviewed the case under the anti-monopoly law. Over the past year, Soho China has been repeatedly accused of overcharging tenants for electricity and fined nearly $30 million. The resignation of Pan and his wife comes as the CCP prepares to hold its 20th Communist Party Congress beginning October 16th. The Congress is expected to give current party leader Xi Jinping a third 5-year term and could amend the party's charter to further strengthen its control over the private sector. Xi has advanced his Common Prosperity campaign, which calls for corporations and business tycoons to share more wealth with the nation to ease the gap between rich and poor. He has also emphasized that the private sector is controlled by the party and has demanded that businesses and business people must remain politically loyal. All of this has undoubtedly put pressure on China's entrepreneurs, and the extreme zero-COVID policy has left many bosses in trouble and even bankrupt. Traditionally, many wealthy Chinese have chosen to move to the U.S. The American Society of Realtors reported this July that Chinese buyers purchased $6.1 billion in real estate in the U.S. over the past 12 months, maintaining the #1 volume by foreign buyers, continuing a trend that has been in place since 2013. Nearly 60% of Chinese buyers, or 58% to be exact, did all-cash transactions. Of these, 31% purchased properties in California, with New York being another key target area for their real estate purchases. Now, in order to get out of China as fast as possible, the immigration destinations have shifted from Europe and the United States to Asia because the immigration threshold of these countries is relatively low. The processing cycle is relatively short, and there is no immigration prison. That is, immigrants must live in that country for a certain period of time. As a result, Singapore has become the first choice for the rich. It's also because most people in Singapore can speak Chinese and there is no wealth tax in Singapore. The Global Investor Program, GIP, run by the Economic Development Board of Singapore, can help wealthy Chinese get their money out. The GIP has a family office option that does just that. Foreign investors set up a single-family office in Singapore, through which the applicant's entire family can obtain permanent resident status in Singapore. In 2018, there were only 27 family offices in Singapore, and by 2021, this number rose to 453. As of April 2022, 143 new family offices have been established in less than half a year, 63 of which are from China. With the increase in the number of investment migrants, Singapore revised to double the threshold to $7.3 million, and applicants also had to commit increasing their fund management to $15 million within 2 years. It is believed that none of this will stop the Chinese tycoons from fleeing. A local corporate services company said that the volume of businesses receiving requests to set up family offices has doubled over the past 12 months. Most of the inquiries are from mainland China. The firm has now set up family offices in Singapore for 50 clients, each with assets over $10 million or more. Today, Singapore is the second largest place for overseas property investment in the world after the US, with a whopping $37 billion in investment in 2021, double the amount of 2020. In June 2022, news broke that a mysterious Chinese buyer had purchased 20 properties in Singapore, worth over $60 million. The buyer is said to be ready to buy 10 more units, which will eventually amount to more than $73 million. Rich people from China have even changed the structure of Singapore's rich. Forbes Asia released its latest list of Singapore's 50 richest people on September 8th, and the first and second-ranked entrepreneurs were both from China. The great exodus of talent and capital will accelerate the social crisis in China. Moreover, entrepreneurs are the main body of economic development in a nation. The mass exodus of entrepreneurs will not only cause a loss of wealth, but will also affect the sustainable development of China's economy. The Chinese Communist government has increased controls to stop the capital outflow. Beijing introduced new regulations in May this year to impose stricter investigations on investment migrants in terms of notarization. As shown in this joint notice issued by the Ministry of Justice and the Notary Association circulating on the internet, notary institutions are required to scrutinize applicants' foreign bank accounts, stock holdings, and real estate sales and purchases more strictly, including investigating the identity of the parties, the purpose, and the nature of the business relationship, requiring the parties to provide relevant corroborating information, such as approved documents from foreign exchange management and other departments or their experience of working abroad, etc. The notice also stipulates that applicants should not take alternative ways to obtain notarization, etc. It also requires that by May 7, 2022, all localities will report the implementation, investigation, and punishment to the Ministry of Justice Public Legal Services Management and the China Notary Association. In other words, the Chinese government hasn't explicitly banned emigration, but it has set up a very difficult step in the process of notarizing passports. Almost total scrutiny takes place in this process. In China, notary agencies and processing procedures are operated under government control. This internal document sends a signal to those who need this type of service that the CCP is tightening its foreign exchange controls and controlling the outflow of funds. It will become more and more difficult for the rich and powerful in China to get passports then. This move has made it much harder for the rich to apply for overseas investment migration. That is to say, whether rich Chinese who are still in China will be able to leave in large numbers is a big problem. Such fear is spreading. Recently, a video has been circulating in mainland China that has sparked a lot of concern. The title of the video is "Everything is Under Control, No Escape from the Clutches." The video describes a process of how gradually, little by little, the CCP has gotten control over every aspect of people's lives. In March 2004, the Chinese government introduced a second-generation ID card to identify who you are. In May 2007, the government connected all bank accounts online. Now all bank assets can be uniformly and collectively traced. In July 2012, the Ministry of Civil Affairs linked marriage registrations so that how people are related to each other is made clear. In February 2014, the business enterprise registration went online, so all the companies, enterprises, and shares under your name can be tracked. At the end of 2017, a unified registration of real estate was launched. All the real estate properties under your name are made known. In February 2018, the Global Financial Information Exchange, CRS, disclosed that what assets you have abroad are also known. The video summarizes that it has taken the CCP nearly 2 decades to connect all the dots like who you are in your family, how much money you have, how many equity assets you have, how much real estate you have, and how many overseas assets you have, without you even noticing it. This way, the authorities know exactly how much money you have earned in your lifetime and whether you have paid the appropriate taxes. At the end of the video, it is emphasized that after your death, these assets become the estate, so the authorities then impose an estate tax of 40%. For example, an inheritance of 100 million will need to pay a 40 million tax in cash first. Otherwise, you won't be able to inherit. Especially the property tax, the video warns, because if the price of the property does not rise and the rent cannot be collected, and it cannot be sold to cash out, so you will die without knowing how you die. Indeed, since 2011, the CCP has been conducting the first round of property tax pilots in Shanghai and Chongqing, with Shanghai targeting residents who own multiple suites and Chongqing targeting high-end luxury properties. It should be said that the property tax is already on its way in China. Under such circumstances, imagine how rich people in China can sleep in peace like before.